Hey y'all, Doug here. Before we jump into the episode, I just wanted to let you know that this upcoming Wednesday, June 28th, Japan Society of New Orleans is partnering with Global New Orleans for a happy hour at Bayou Beer Garden from 5:30 to 7:30. The VIP space in the structure behind the patio will be reserved for us, so come on out and have a drink, alcoholic or not, and catch up with Japan Society of New Orleans and other international organizations in our community. Hope to see you there. Hello, I'm Doug, and welcome to the Krewe of Japan podcast, a weekly podcast where we take you on audio journeys through Japanese culture.
This time on Krewe of Japan podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. Back in season 1, Nigel and I sat down with Andrew Freund, director of USA Sumo, to talk about the sport of sumo and highlighted how internationalized the sport of sumo had become, both professionally and at the amateur sumo level. If you haven't given that one a listen, go back and check it out. It's a pretty fun episode. But today, the crew is taking a closer look into the life of a professional sumotori. Recently, I happened across a show on Netflix called Sanctuary, which, while a fictional story, gave a peek into the world and culture of professional sumo in Japan. But prior to watching that show, back in April, I had the privilege of sitting down with a living legend of the sumo world, Konishiki Yasokichi, a multi-time grand champion and the first foreign-born sumotori to reach the level of Ozeki. Konishiki helps us better understand what it's like to be a professional sumo wrestler, both in the past as well as present day. Throughout this episode, he offers us a unique glimpse into the rigorous training and traditions that define the sumo world.
Number one, you have to build a strong machine, which is your body. Technique is different with every single person. So you have to pick techniques that your body is fit for.
Provides us with an insider's perspective into the unwavering dedication required to participate professionally in this ancient and revered sport of sumo.
A great percentage of kids that join within a year actually quit within a year. It's a hard life. It's 24/7, it's 365 days. It's commitment 100%. There's nothing like it that I know of in the world. Maybe Shaolin in China where they have the Shaolin Kung Fu that I know of. Sumo is the same thing. So you have to live the whole life like that. You don't have a life outside of sumo. It's your whole life. So, and that's how dedicated and committed you have to be.
Describes how the pandemic impacted the lives of sumo wrestlers.
We just started going back to actually going to the stable because we weren't allowed. You know, the hardest thing that people don't even know, during all this pandemic up to last tournament, they weren't even allowed to get out of the stable. Even go down the road to 7-Eleven, they weren't allowed.
And so much more. But enough of this introduction. Let's get to what everyone is here to listen to. The stories from the dojo, as told by legendary professional sumo wrestler Konishiki. All right, and today we have a former sumo champion, Yasokichi Konishiki. Welcome to the Krewe of Japan podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me. I know it's really early over there.
Yeah, my mornings are my Zooming time because the time difference in Japan.
Yeah, we have a lot of guests that are in Japan too, so it's usually either around this time or a little bit later in the evening. Usually is the best time, unless someone likes to stay up really late, and then we can catch them in the morning. It's either one of those two options.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we jump into the questions about sumo and your journey and everything like that, we have a little bit of an icebreaker. Since we're a Japan Society of New Orleans sponsored podcast, we have a question we ask all of our guests, and that is if they have a connection to New Orleans. Whether that's they've been there or if maybe they haven't, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear New Orleans?
Oysters.
Oysters?
And music.
Yeah.
Oysters and music. Oysters especially. I'm an oyster freak, that's why.
Oh, yeah?
I think I eat oysters almost every day and then I hop from bar to bar just to listen to different styles of music.
Yeah.
And I'm a musician and I do music a lot, so I really loved being in New Orleans because of the music.
When was the last time you came?
I think it was like maybe 7-8 years ago.
Okay. All right. That's
right
awesome.
before the pandemic, I think we were there. Not too long ago.
Okay. Next time you come, you have to let us know. We can take you out. You get some charbroiled oysters.
Yeah.
But when I was listening to your Naro, like the live question and answer session, about a month ago, I had asked a question about football, and we're going to talk about football a little bit later on too. But you said that I think you said your nephew or someone that played American football, like for the NFL. I think was for the
San Diego.
Chargers or yeah.
He just got a contract to go to the Steelers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So when I looked it up who it was, and he went to LSU here in not in New Orleans, but
Yeah.
So just right up the road from us. Yeah.
He's a world champion.
Yeah. He was on that championship team back in 2020.
Yeah.
That was a fun game. Just before the world went to crap.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, yeah. So I thought it was pretty cool and pretty neat. Small world. But yeah, so really we're going to kind of shift over to your sumo journey, your Japan journey. And the question, again, we ask a lot of our guests is, what is their Japan journey? How did you get interested in Japan, or whether or not, how did you end up in Japan? So let's go back to your early days. Being born in Hawaii, what led to your interest in sumo and eventually moving to Japan?
Oh, for me, Japan just sumo came by accident.
Yeah.
I had no idea what sumo was, but there was someone that told me, "Oh, you should be a sumo wrestler," out of the blue when I was at the beach. So when that happened, I wasn't interested. It's just that a man that is a legend in Hawaii who used to be in the pro wrestling circuit. His name was Curtis the Booyah Kim. He was actually taking boards out in Waikiki. So he's on kind of called me over and talked to me because he's experienced traveling to Japan on wrestling tours. And he was here when the great Nikki Dozan, who's one of the founders of professional wrestling here in Japan, he was an ex-sumo wrestler too. That's where it all started. But, I had no knowledge of it. So sumo was the reason why I came here. And that was like right after graduating from high school.
Yeah, so it was kind of not freak accident, but like just circumstance.
It is a freak accident. I was like getting into something that I never heard of. The reason why, I was in a position where I had to make decisions on my future. If I was going to go and push my luck and try to go to college and figure out what life's going to be in college and what life's going to be after that, or take this opportunity where all I had to do is jump on the plane and go. I don't have to worry about paying anything. So, I think the biggest factor was knowing that financially I didn't have to burden anybody about the opportunity coming to Japan. So I think that was my biggest turning point. I'm like the baby of the family. So I see how my family grew and how my brothers and sisters got opportunities to leave Hawaii to go to college, and they went on scholarships. But at the time, scholarships only paid for the studies. They didn't pay any extra like for your boarding. And I could see that when they were away, I could see my parents just struggling, try to help them when they're in the mainland. And I didn't see myself doing that. When the opportunity came and said, all you have to do is get on a plane. When you get there, you leave free, they take care of you. And that's it. I thought, well, as long as I don't burden anybody financially, I'm good. And that's the biggest reason why I guess I left too.
It's a big leap of faith. I mean, leaving Hawaii and then going to a foreign country, a country you knew, like you said, not too much about.
Nothing.
What was it?
I knew nothing about Japan, nothing about sumo.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the best thing about the whole thing. I didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
I just open-minded, and I was just actually ready about accepting whatever hit me in the face, So
what did hit you in the face? What was the biggest thing that shocked you about Japan as a country, but then also, living
everything, the culture itself. Sumo culture is completely different from Japanese culture.
Yeah.
Even Japanese people have a hard time with the sumo culture because it's a rare sport. Not even a sport, it's more like a culture thing than the sport. And a lot of people cannot handle the sumo.
Yeah.
And it's still like that today. A great percentage of kids that join within a year actually quit within a year. It's a hard life. It's 24/7. It's 365 days.
Yeah, no breaks.
It's commitment 100%. There's nothing like it that I know of in the world. Maybe Shaolin in China where they have the Shaolin Kung Fu that I know of. Sumo is the same thing. So you have to live the whole life like that. You don't have a life outside of sumo. It's your whole life. So, and that's how dedicated and committed you have to be.
So those young guys that you were talking about that, they may quit not all of them, obviously not all of them quit after a year, but the ones that, how do they find out, or how do they find their way into a specific heya or stable? Like, how do they get there to that point? And, how did they pick? Are they recruited like you were? Someone kind of referred you to a certain stable? How does that work?
A lot of them get referred.
Okay.
A lot of them, if they're doing sports, and most likely some of them would like to join on their own, they would actually find a way to join. If you have a background in sumo or judo or like rugby, a lot of this big boy sport, a lot of them end up trying to be sumotori. But other than that, some guys get referred, some guys get scouted. I think the majority get scouted right now. Before my time, sumo was a way out of poverty for a lot of families.
Mm-hmm.
And that was some of the ways where some families who couldn't control their sons had to send their sons to sumo because it's 100% discipline.
Yeah.
When they get into sumo and stuff. So a lot of families really took to sumo because of the discipline they knew and the hardship they knew their sons had to go through. And, sumo itself makes them all better people. I mean, to the bone. Like, it prepares you for society.
Yeah, it for especially like you were saying, if they were kind of in a bad way, kind of gives them rights the ship and kind of puts them on the right path to some extent.
Well,
right?
Like how they back home, they have gangsters, kids, young kids that join gangs, and they have the same thing here. They call it bozozoku.
Right.
A lot of those kids that come in, they find out the first thing they find out, they step into the door, brother, you better keep your voice down because everybody in here can knock you out no matter what.
Right. You're not messing with anybody that doesn't know how to handle themselves.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of families actually send their kids. But yeah, we're a lot of them get scouted, or now it's more like they get into high school sumo and get drafted from there.
Okay.
Yeah, majority of them are coming out of, I noticed they're coming out of high school.
Are there a lot of high schools that have like a sumo club or sumo team? Or
It's huge. They have sumo clubs, and it starts as one puck. One puck is like the elementary kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think they start from 3rd, 4th grade, I think.
Okay.
And they have the junior high school tournaments all year. Every year they have different tournaments. So
okay, cool.
It's like Little League back home.
Yeah. I was curious. I didn't know that some schools even go back to like elementary level, 3rd, 4th grade kids doing sumo. That's pretty cool.
Yep, it's tradition, I guess. That's right.
So you're talking about that regimented lifestyle, that really 100% all in, 24/7, 365. What is that day in the life like? What is your typical day as a sumotori?
Typical day, every morning you're up early. You train all morning. Your whole morning to maybe to the noontime is taken with just training and stuff. Your first meals is lunch. There's only 2 meals a day. You don't eat in the morning because the mornings are, for instance, when I joined, our practice sessions was at 5 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, and that was every morning. And then you prepare for a tournament, and there's like 6 major tournaments a year, which takes you a whole year. And then between those major tournaments, you have tours that you have to be participating on that goes from 3 to 1 month. Mm-hmm. You come back and we'll see the whole year. So actually, there's actually no days off. The days off is actually right after those 3-4 days after tournaments is your day off, which is you're so worn out, your body is.
I bet.
It's aching. It's 15 days of tournament. When you get into the top division, it's every day. So it's not bad. It's just like physically you train, your body's trained to go through the damage. It hurts, but your mental part is just drained because so much focus, and that's long. 15 days. I don't think there's a sport that lasts 15 days. Even the Olympic don't go 15 days.
No, not like that.
And they don't participate every day.
Right.
So I don't think that makes sumo very rare and very unique in the way we do things, because it's a lot of pressure you have to live with, and the pressure you have to get used to your career.
Yeah.
You
got one chance, one match, and then that's it for that day.
It's one match, but it's 24/7, and you can actually screw your freaking whole day up. Nothing would be freaking right. Just within a split second of mistake, you feel like shit all day because of that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing people don't. I can explain it, but I don't think people can see it. Even after this interview, people are going to try to figure out what is that, because there's nothing like it. I don't think you can experience something like it.
Yeah.
I think, and that's what develops this toughness after the sumo. A lot of these guys that leave sumo become successful in life because they go through so much. Like, I was just talking about this yesterday to one of a big company, an executive, that, well, maybe you guys have to send your workers to train for sumo, because you can yell at a guy come from sumo, he wouldn't care much because he's been yelled at for the 10 years they've been in sumo, and it's nothing to them.
Sure.
They just accept it and say, oh, arigato gozaimasu, and move on with their life. It won't damage their focus on what they're looking at.
Yeah.
I can explain it the way I explain it to you, but it's hard to see because it's a very Japanese thing. Mm-hmm. And within the Japanese community, it's even more Japanese. It's like the samurais those days,
Yeah.
And samurai in today's world, it's hard to believe that.
I know, or hard to imagine that lifestyle, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so disciplined. It's like, wow.
So the day-to-day.
That's the whole day. And then the day ends after lunch. They go take a nap, or after the nap, or if they're injured or have to get some therapy, they'll get some massages, some therapy, and some, acupuncture, whatever they need to help. Mm-hmm. Some kids do extra training. They actually go down to the gyms and work out, and then they come in the evening. They have their second meal together. Everything is in-house, and everything is cooked by them, is prepared by them. So that's a normal day, every day.
So a lot of guys do like strength and conditioning training, like at like a gym, like with weights and everything, or?
Yeah, I think we kind of brought that because I was a powerlifter in high school, so I kind of continued when I got into the ranks. I could do that during my time, so I continued doing that during my career, and I noticed everybody else started going to the gym. So.
But clearly, it was working for you, having that power.
Oh, I was a powerlifter. So
yeah.
I was a powerlifter before sumo, so it came natural for me. But a lot of these kids don't know weights because they don't do much in high school here.
Yeah, and very few high schools have like proper gyms.
They don't. They have beautiful gymnasiums and auditoriums, but not weight rooms. There's something that they're not into yet. Even the professional guys, because to them weightlifting is not good for the body. It makes you tight and all that.
Yeah.
But they're beginning to find out that's not the case.
Yeah, there's some benefit to it.
A lot of benefit to it. It's just that's why we do stretching after weightlifting, so you can get loose. Mm-hmm. You need power to get speed. You need speed. Speed and power comes together. That's why.
So as these guys progress and advance, like, does that day-to-day change for them in terms of like life in a heya?
The only reason why it changed is seniority, right?
Yeah.
When seniority comes along, you have more time to yourself. Mm-hmm. And then everybody has responsibilities in the stable. Like you have to cook, you have to clean and all that. They actually give you a day where you have to really cook, maybe once or twice a week. As you get longer as a senior into sumo, you get to kind of slack more,
Yeah.
The guys would do most of the stuff.
In terms of like getting senior, is that after like 5 years, 3 years,
well,
10
depending
years?
Depending how old or young your stable is.
Oh, okay. So it just varies.
They will stay young and still learning. It's really up to the oyakata, the owner, the coach, to make it sure that they all kind of learn cook and responsibilities too. That's why.
Yeah.
It's a house. It's living in a home where the oyakata and okami-san, which is his wife, have to it's like a family. So they have to actually 24/7. Their job is even harder because if any of those kids get sick, get hurt, get in trouble, they get beat up, man, bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're the one who get all. They suffer all responsibilities. No matter what happens, if those kids get out of hand, it's their fault. So it's even a huge responsibility for the owner of the stable. A lot of pressure.
I bet. So for many sports and martial arts in general, proper technique is like the most important thing when you're competing at any level. Obviously there's some kids are naturally athletic or have natural strength or, some of that, sometimes that comes and you can only rely on that so much, but the technique is what really pushes you to the next level. So for Sumotori, what techniques and movements do you think are the most critical or fundamental to know? Like what is something that every guy should focus on first and foremost?
Number one, you have to build a strong machine, which is your body. Technique is different with every single person. So you have to pick techniques that your body is fit for.
Okay.
And this is the reason why sumo is so unique. We don't have weight classes in professional sumo. The biggest reason is before majority of the techniques a smaller guy uses, and to his advantage. Mm-hmm. A big guy like me, I only probably use 3 to 4 at the most techniques my whole career because I cannot do the other techniques because you need timing, speed, and a lot of more movement.
Okay.
And flexibility. So in amateur level, you have different weight classes, but in professional sumo, it doesn't have. And people tell it's disadvantage. No way. You look at the history of sumo, the majority of all the grand champions are all smaller guys because of that.
Yeah.
The only thing is they don't last long because once you get injured, a big guy like me, I can injure my ankle, have a sprained ankle, but I have a big body and have power, so I can still go and win a match at 70%. Mm-hmm. A smaller Yokozuna, there's no way he can win even with 50%. He needs 100% to beat a bigger guy like me. So that's the biggest difference.
Gotcha.
And what we train our kids to do is actually prepare their bodies for any technique that their body feels. So it's very important. The typical exercises, the sumo squats, all those exercises, the body has to be flexible to prevent injuries.
Mm-hmm.
The more flexible you are, the more speed you can put on your touchy eye and your takeoff and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's the stuff we coach. But as a kid growing through the sport, we can tell if his body is smaller, we can tell that he cannot do the kind of sumo that I would do.
Right.
Because my power and my body gives me the opportunity to do what I do, and I can go straight up. If you're smaller, if you have my size, there's no freaking way you're going to come straight up to me.
Right.
I'll blow you off the ring.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have great technique. The small guys are so fast. They get in, they get under you. And once they get under anybody, it doesn't matter how big you are. Your weight becomes as light as them. Because you stand up, if you stand up like a tree, of course, all you have to do is push and he falls.
Yeah.
But if you're braced and you bent down, there's no way he can push you. So the advantage of a smaller guy is getting you to come and chase them within that 5.5 meter ring.
Yeah.
And it's a split second at the edge where they trick you into following them and they actually sidestep you or trip you or do some kind of technique where you wouldn't be able to do.
It's like they just rely more on that quickness and getting and dodging and
It's about putting pressure and making you feel like they're coming, but they're not.
Yeah.
It's a mind game. You have to be really clever and your body have to be ready to do the techniques anyway too. So
yeah. So was there a certain technique, like your go-to, though, maybe your strongest technique or some kind of move that you used? Was there one in particular that you had?
My technique was my hand.
Just kind of...
Zipari, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was so strong. If I hit you right, it's no way
you knock him back, get him off balance a little bit, yeah.
But the bad thing about it, my timing could be right, but somebody smaller would have even a better timing. They're like make you feel so good, like you're coming hard, and then to find out they're like in the back of you. That's how quick it is. And they can actually time any of your hand and pull you down. It's a mixture of people don't understand. If UFC came along, sumo was always the MMA of the world because it's a mixture of aikido, karate, wrestling, and boxing open-handed. And people don't know that we can kick in sumo too, but they don't see too much kicking techniques here, but they can kick in sumo.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody kick in a match.
Not much. It's a lot of yorikiris and suridashis, and it's more up and up. They try to get square and push out, and a lot of that technique. So it's different.
So going back, like you said, in high school, you did powerlifting, you did football. One of the questions, like I mentioned earlier, I asked during your live Q&A for the Naro TV segment was about your football experience. And having that lineman experience, it was more the powerlifting, it's from what it sounds like. But did the handwork and footwork that you would need as an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, did that help you in any way and transfer over to sumo? Or did you find that you had to kind of reset your brain?
It's the other way. I think sumo helps the lineman more than the lineman helps sumo.
Yeah.
With sumo, you have to be flat-footed. In football, you're on your toes.
True.
And you're ripping up into the guy. You're lunging into a person in football. But in sumo, the difference is your impact of hit is heavier because your first two step is so... The idea is to step really deep into your opponent and hitting with your body squarely. Mm-hmm. It's not a forearm or a helmet hit. So when you're hitting with your head, you have to hit with your hands at the same time. And your first step have to be within your opponent, like stepping into him deep. And that's what makes that heaviness of the hit. If you listen to some hitting, some guys hit so hard you can hit a head, boom. It's so important, yeah.
There are a lot of like head injuries from those tachiai. Like
a lot of neck injuries. You hear it every day. Even after this, I go and help Musashi Maru train these boys every day. Guys banging heads.
Yeah.
And then we advise them to always work on their necks because, they cut their neck, their eyes and stuff every day. Yeah. Every single day.
I can only imagine, especially early on when you're learning and you don't have that, you
well,
don't.
And that's why we be very careful with the young kids that join at 15. We have to be careful on them. We try to prepare them. Sometimes we don't even let them spar. We just let them build their bodies for like the first 6 months or maybe the year.
That makes sense.
They would hit and they would just pull them out fast. We don't let them go as much as the kids who've been in sumo like 3-4 years.
Okay.
You can see the body develop.
Especially if they're teenagers, they're still growing into their bodies.
Oh yeah, they're still babies. A lot of these kids, like we're training this one kid, he's only 16, one just turned 15. And big difference. Even the 16 and the 15, 1 year difference. And even though the 15 is bigger than the 16, power difference. Like within 1 year, that's how big strength-wise is different. Their body's not that much different, but you can see the baby fat is shrinking on the 16-year-old, and you can see his ass and his legs are beginning to develop into stumps.
Yeah, like muscle.
Yeah, like we're thick and strong muscle.
Yeah. So what was, you mentioned like 15-year-old. What is the youngest age a person or child
15,
can join?
15
is the youngest? Okay.
You have to graduate from junior high school.
Junior high? Okay.
Officially.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I thought you had to be a little bit older. I didn't realize it was that young. So we kind of talked a little bit about the tournament life, that 15 days, how it was grueling. It's 15 days of tournament and building your body, mentally preparing yourself for the match. And then once you get past that match, preparing yourself for the next day or getting over the results from the previous match. Try not to get in your own head, right?
Exactly.
So just in general, what is the preparation that goes into the lead up to a match or the decompress after a match? Like, how does it feel for a Sumotori, like at any division, I guess any level? Is there a certain routine that most guys follow daily? They have to go to a certain place or anything like that?
Well, obviously, they're all coming from the stable. So
yeah,
you're living life with the brotherhood from the same stable. And, you can feel the tensions of the nervousness of some other boys. And in my case, nothing tastes good during tournaments, or your appetite just leaves, but you have to kind of force feed yourself during tournaments.
Sure. Yeah, you need that.
For other people, it's a nervous wreck. And for me, as long as I had a great practice session, no matter what, I go in the tournament with confidence all the time. But the confidence kind of changes when I have some kind of injury that I got to deal with during the tournament and stuff. So
yeah.
And then winning and losing, the agony of freaking losing is just something that you have to learn and overcome slowly and get used to as your career go on. It's nothing you're gonna learn overnight, but I had to learn quickly. 50 days and screwing up, a match can really damage your mind more than your body. So in my experiences, I try to go to sleep as much as I can right after a tournament. I have to go out because the sumo culture, people that support the stable, most of the time the stable would tell you to go out with just people who support. So, you're going out at night, dinners with people that support the stable, and half of the time you're like, oh, you feel so shitty because you just lost a match, and you have to put on a smile. The whole lifestyle, that's only part of what we have to do is actually struggle and find ways to overcome this pain that we carry with us, and then we have to smile in the front of people and participate in part of the sumo culture, so everything about it's just a learning process. It's not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
I did it for almost 16 years. So it took time. It probably took me maybe 3-4 years to realize how to get over it. Some of the guys would go out and drink just to kind of forget about it. Yeah. But I never did drink before a tournament or during a tournament. And I kind of, right after we went out with people that we had to go out with during tournaments, I would actually go straight home and try to sleep. But, it was hard to even fall asleep all the time. So,
yeah. Like you said, it's just so much going on, right? Like that day to day.
Oh, your mind is, you're stuck on
you're
sumo.
Thinking, yeah.
It's 2 weeks of hardcore training before the tournament, and then the tournament lasted for 15 days. So a whole month, physically and mentally, just going through. Your body is probably, I hate to say it, but it's the easiest part of the whole thing is, your body can relax and you can have like therapy and massages and jump into jacuzzis and just to relax the body. But your brain is something you have to really work on to really find a way to fight off the evil, man.
That's tough. That's tough. I can't even imagine.
And that's your whole life too. So imagine doing that till you retire, because the focus has to be there.
And that's what you said. There's 6 tournaments. Is there 6 tournaments a year?
6 major tournaments.
Yeah. So that's basically every other month. You got to go through that whole process.
It is. And then it's funny because you have to go on tours, and then guys that you just kick your ass during the tournament, you're training with them. And the thing is, you have to be really, really smart and professional about everything you do. So you go on these tours, and we get to train with guys that we try to kill each other during tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very respectful sport. So nobody, and then you go there, you have to be really smart how you train. You don't want to give too much of.
Right. You don't want to tip them off to something.
But you cannot do half-ass too. So
yeah,
it's a mind game all the way through, man.
So would you just do stuff you never would do in tournament? You would do that during the training sessions or stuff like that?
In my case, because there's only so much technique I have, I would come hard. I would come hard all the time.
Try to get in their head before the tournament. So remember this.
All I'm trying to do is trying to scare them.
Yeah.
Give them some kind of
something to think about. Yeah.
If you get hit, you're gonna. But they do the same thing to me too. That's why.
Sure. Yeah.
They come with their techniques and shit, freaking guy. So it's a mind game throughout your whole career, man. You have to give and take, bro. You have to find ways to understand, and it's a chess game all the way through your whole career, bro.
Was there a certain basho that you like participating in the most, like in a certain city or
any place? But Tokyo is great. Because Tokyo, we have 3 major tournaments.
Yeah.
It's relaxing because all your good friends tend to be in the other cities, guys that you've met during being in Osaka or Nagoya or Fukuoka. So. Mm-hmm. And it's just different, the atmosphere is different.
Was your stable, the one you trained at, is it based in Tokyo?
Everybody's based in Tokyo.
Everybody's based in Tokyo.
Remember, it's like professional leagues where you have your home stadium. So Tokyo, for everybody in sumo, is their hometown.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when we go out to other cities, we have to rent out places for like 4 to 5 weeks to us to live and train for that tournament in Nagoya or Osaka. So
I was wondering, yeah.
42 different states go and find places to.
I'm sure there's a lot of big houses that can.
It's not really houses. We stay a lot of temples.
Temples. Okay.
Majority of the guys stay at temples and stuff.
Huh. Okay.
Because it's more quiet, and they actually built their sumo dojo rings within that property because they have a lot of property in those temples.
Oh, okay.
And then it's away from noise from the city.
Makes sense. Actually, that reminded me of like one time. I've only done sumo one time in my life, and that was a friend of mine in the mountains outside of Iwaki City in Fukushima. I used to live in Iwaki for about 3 years, and I think it was in Furudono, maybe. They had like a temple that had doyo in.
Most of the temples had doyos those days.
Yeah. And so I got to fight in one of those, or not, fight, but you know what I mean. They had the matches and everything. Yeah.
The Matsuri right there always.
Yeah, it was tough. I did not fare well. I got my butt handed to me every single match. So I didn't know I thought. I was like, oh yeah, just go in there, and cause I'm a bigger guy compared to some of the other people that I was fighting against, and they just handled me.
Leverage, man, leverage.
Yeah.
That's why I do this sumo tours. I do is to explain to people and make them understand. Size don't matter in sumo.
Yeah.
I used to have friends that used to come visit me and they talk shit bruh, I can handle that kid. Bruh, before you handle that kid, you go handle the 16-year-old kid over there. And they get their ass rolled bad. They're double the size of these kids, and they get in their ass thrown all over the place. And they're looking at me how the hell he cannot move? Well, look at how braced he is. His knees are bent. You're just trying to overpower him with your upper body, which you're standing straight up. You're lighter than him now, So that's the thing they don't,
I remember seeing something on your Twitter. I think it was last summer or fall. Was it the Warriors? They came to a stable and did some training while they're doing they're doing a match or something, exhibition match in Japan, right? Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That was Stephen Curry and Pooh.
How they do?
They're blown away, man. all these athletes that come, they all get to sumo. So I do a lot of just VIPs. I don't waste my time telling people call, and some elite people would like to go, and then I set it up where they privately can watch a session, and I kind of explain to them what it is. And because the stereotype of sumo, people still think it's just big guys, but I have no idea. I can tell you, if you join, I tell you won't last a year.
That's funny. So we talked a little bit about the dojo, and everyone knows there's the ring with the 2 sumo wrestlers. There's the judge. There's much more to that. So what is the anatomy of a sumo match? How would you best describe the word tachiai?
Tachiai is you firing off the football. When the quarterback says, "Hey," the fastest to get off is the most likely. 99% of the match would go to the person that gets off really quickly off a tachiai. It's those 2 lines that you see. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about sumo, there's no height. It's all eye contact, Yeah. No one tells you where to go. So you can feel it coming. And the thing is, don't get too held up into watching him too much. You have to focus on how you want to go most of the time. And the trick is to get in there as quick as you can. And if you can do your style of sumo, most likely you would win the match. you know?
Yeah.
But again, you have an opponent that coming as hard as you coming, or maybe even harder than you.
Right.
It might be even more trickier than you. So, and a lot of things you have to measure. It's a split second, yeah.
Is there like a I don't want to say false start to use football terms, but like if you lean or something, or if you rock your head too much or kind of move a little bit, but then don't actually go, is that like kind of like I want to say I've seen things stop before that happened because someone kind of...
Yeah. There's no such thing as you're going to start before the other guy.
Yeah.
You're always going to be stopped.
Okay.
A forced start, there's no such thing as forced start.
Yeah.
Even during the tournament, the judges are watching that stuff.
Yeah.
And you can tell too during training. It's something that you really have to feel with your other opponent. And that's where all the respect comes from, because you're respecting each other's moments of getting off, yeah?
Yeah. Who was it? I think it was Asashoryu. He'd go up to the tache, squat down, but then get up and then kind of wave his arm out. And was it him or...
No, he wasn't waving. He just was hitting his belt. It's nothing. Everybody has their own.
Yeah.
That comes from Chiyono Fuji, but people only now, compared to my old time, people are more now watching sumo more than ever. But actually, all the stuff that you see now, it was done during my
years
time.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to the internet, it's making sumo more popular.
Yeah.
But it's, they have to be very lenient now in the way they coach the kids now. None of this hardcore getting hit with the bamboo anymore.
Yeah.
Everything changed a lot.
Change with time, right? I feel like that's every sport too.
Once you do something, it's bullying,
Yeah.
The way you coach now, it's even what you say is going to be bullying if you don't watch what you say anymore. So it's harder for us who coach, because you see, you can push this kid a little bit more if you kind of hit him, but you're not allowed to do it anymore. So,
yeah.
And it's very hard by message. You can every single day repeat yourself every single day, and there's nothing else you can do but just to repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully this kid catches what you're trying to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
And you need more communication. And the hard thing about it, we live in an age where a lot of these kids don't know how to communicate. They live off their phones.
Yeah.
No one talks to each other. So you there trying to talk and just repeating myself the same thing, trying to make them understand of what they're doing wrong in their techniques and what they should do more. And it's hard to enforce stuff. No.
You brought up a question I didn't even think of until you just said it. But in terms of like kids, like the younger kids or even the adults, but like phones in the Heya, do you have to like put it away for certain hours a day? You're not allowed to touch your cell phone or anything like that?
Well, they're not allowed to go on any social media.
Oh, really?
If anything is posted on Twitter with a stable, it's with the stable, not individually.
I gotcha.
Just Sumotori.
That makes sense. So my next question I had for you, you reached the level of Ozeki, and if I'm not mistaken, you were the first non-Japanese to reach that level, correct?
Yes,
yeah.
True.
And you were a 3-time grand champion in the Makuuchi top division of the tournaments.
Yes.
Can you help our listeners understand the ranking system within sumo? And then how does that rank determine which division you're able to participate in?
When you join sumo as a young man, you take the physical and officially, you sumo. And then at the beginning, they call it Maizumo, which you go and they give you 3 matches. You put up against the newcomers that come in. Then from how you do within those 3 matches, they rank you in the next division, which is Jonokuchi. There is 6 levels, and the 4 bottom levels are levels that we would call, like in baseball, triple A, double A, and stuff.
Okay.
And then the 2 top levels, which is the other number 5 and number 6 level. The 5th level is more like the minor league. You get paid, but you're not the major. And then the top level is where you have your grand champions, your junior champions, and your top 60. So out of the 6 levels, if you add all the Rikshis or the Sumotori together in the league, there's about 700 of them. But with the 700, within the 700, only the top 2 levels, which adds up to like 60 of them, become top ranking.
Yeah.
The minor and the major league. And they're the only ones that get paid in the whole 700 league.
Oh, wow.
So that's how it is. And then to move up, it's very simple. Up to the 4th level, there's only 7 matches a tournament. So they wrestle like every other day for the 15-day tournament.
Okay.
And if they win 4, they get to move up the ranks. If they lose, they go down. It's very simple. You win the majority of your matches to go up, and you lose the majority of your matches, you go down. And then when you get into the top division, which is judo, you get 15 matches. You just have to win majority of the 15 matches, and it works up and down to the fifth level and same thing. So once you get in the sixth level or the top level, that's where all the big boys are. To become an Ozeki, you have to be a Sekiwake, which is a junior champion. When you're in the Sekiwake division, junior champion division, you have to have 3 tournaments, at least win 11 or more matches. You get promoted to Ozeki, which is very hard because you have to be consistent for 3 tournaments, win at least 11 or more per tournament out of 15. So, and then the next level is once you make it as an Ozeki to become a Yokozuna, the best way to become Yokozuna is win back-to-back. And the only problem with being in Yokozuna, once you become Yokozuna and once you start losing, you have to kind of retire.
Oh.
So like I can go back and win 2 tournaments, but the next tournament, if I start screwing up, I cannot win. It's done.
So you don't you don't demote. You
cannot demote. You have to quit.
Go off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other ranks like Ozeki, you can be demoted and fight your way back. But Yokozuna, once you get up there, the responsibility of winning is atarimai. You have to win.
Yeah.
Which is
you're kind of the face of sumo at that point, right?
No, it's hard. It's hard.
Whew. Yeah, it is tough. I didn't realize that. I thought it would demote back down, but now wow.
That's why a lot of these guys, they get injured and they take a long, some of the latest Yokozunas, Hakuho, and all these guys, they're like injured for years. And that's because they had to find ways to not be in tournaments and get their butt kicks.
Yeah.
They just prepared and got better. And my time, they didn't give time to heal, man. You just had to go.
You didn't have a choice. So guys, now more so than ever, they'll
sit out
rehab longer
all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I remember, I think I remember seeing that Hakuho would be out for a bit, especially towards the end. Like he was kind of out for a few tournaments in a row or something like that.
They're being nice about it. Before this, it wasn't so nice. Like for me, I was kind of forced to go on sumo tours, and I had freaking holes in my leg with blood coming out during tours.
Oh, jeez.
And you had to go with it too, man.
Mm-hmm.
So the trick was you got to learn how to act too.
Yeah.
Like during the practice, you act like you pushed to something, so you get sent home.
You get a little bit of an early rest. Yeah.
They have to see that you injured, like in the front of them before they say, "Okay, you injured." You can get hurt during this training, and they wouldn't let that go. So it's funny. We used to I kind of learned it from all the senior guys. I noticed that they're like falling down certain times during our tours and stuff because whoever gets sent home early, maybe the first 2 guys, when they get sent home, everybody after that, you have to fight with your injuries through the whole tour. But they won't let you go home because they cannot have people lesser.
Yeah. That makes sense. So they'd be like, who's first? Who's going to get out of here first?
It's funny. And I kind of find out, so that's the trick. So I made sure when coming out of tournament, I was in pain. I made sure when I went on a tour, the first couple of days, I'm out of there, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame. I mean, especially with like you said, the schedules and stuff. If you're doing tournaments and you go on hardcore for a month, and then you have to go do a tour.
Your body hurts when you're on the bus for like 6 hours. Go in a hotel, set up. Next morning, you're out of the hotel.
Yeah.
Training. It's rigged, bro. I tell you, people just don't. A lot of Japanese people understand the sumo life, and they know it's not made for everybody, man.
Sounds like,
I don't think it would work in a Western world too.
Well, like you said, there's a lot of people that don't make it past that first year, right?
It doesn't, man. And that's the reason why. It's just the lifestyle, man.
Yeah.
It takes away it's your whole life. If you don't understand that you don't have a life out of sumo, then you have a hard time.
Yeah. In all of your career, did you have like a person that you considered like your biggest rival?
It's 15 days. This sport is compared to other sports. Like if you play football, you might hit the same guy in a year maybe twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Colleges, they don't play the same team twice, but in professional ball, they do, right?
Right.
But then you gotta imagine, on a major tournament, we're already wrestling these guys 6 times a year in the top level. Mm-hmm. And then we train with them during these tours.
Yeah.
So there's guys that I wouldn't say guys with rivals, but I would have guys that always stuck in my mind that I have a hard time with.
Yeah.
which I would try to train with, doing tours and stuff, to try to find ways to beat them easier or not to lose to them much and stuff. So that's the only thing I would deal with.
I got
But
you.
there's no such thing as
Rivals or anything like that.
hard to do any rivals.
Yeah.
Maybe in the Ozeki position, you try to have a better record than your Ozeki peers.
Okay.
That's where the battle is on the top. Ozeki Yokozuna. Everybody try to knock each other off so you can be the leaders in each tournament and stuff. So.
Okay. So life after sumo. So we talked about kind of like your career. We talked about like just sumo life in general, but life after sumo, I mean, it's pretty clear you keep yourself busy. I know you've had just seeing around everywhere. You DJ. You've been in film, music. I see you on Twitter all the time. You're barbecuing.
I'm trying to survive this whole new savvy world and stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think I've seen on TV when I visit my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law lives in Ibaraki, so I go visit every once in a while. And so I remember my son, we were watching NHK, and I want to say it was...
Nihongo de Asumo.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, and you're in like a little is that a sun? What kind of costume is it? It's like an orange with like yellow.
I'm like a boulder that came out of the volcano.
Oh, is that what it is? I guess I never paid attention to like what they were talking about.
Well, a lot of people didn't even know because I didn't know myself. But the show doesn't explain that much. It just Koni-chan. It just took the name Konishiki and named it Koni-chan.
Koni-chan.
So I did that for 20 years. In fact, we just finished that program. We ended that program. Yeah, 20 years I did that. Yeah, a lot of TVs, a lot of recordings. Right after sumo, a lot of commercials was something that got me boosted my engine to do the things I do, and always sang. So a lot of recordings, about 14 albums under my name. And right now, we're doing all these sumo tours and stuff. Do a lot of lectures for both Japanese and American corporates. Produce a lot of stuff, Created my own barbecue sauce. I do a lot of barbecuing events. I like to produce music events, little events and stuff like that.
Cool.
Right now, I'm just focused on trying to educate the world about sumo.
Yeah.
And that's why we started the Sumo and Sushi. I was approached many years ago, right after I retired, 20-something years ago. We still have same people trying to chase me down. But the problem was, none of them will let me do the way I do it.
Sure.
I thought, you cannot let a real Sumotori come and participate in something that you think is sumo. If we don't do it the way I do it, I don't want to be part of it because it's embarrassing.
Right.
It's not just big guys. And I love that everybody's participating and interested in sumo. But you cannot make it look the way you guys look at it. It's embarrassing. Everybody think it's just big guys, fat guys, and just hitting. Right. Even I don't even put on a mosh no more because my body's not ready for it. I cannot do it no more. It doesn't represent what it's about. So I kept on. How many people approached me? I said, no way. If I'm going to do anything, I have to be responsible for the contents of what goes into the show.
Sure. Now
they finally found a guy who's a promoter from Seattle who does a great job of preparing the whole event, which is something I wouldn't like to do, but I love to put together the show and actually finding ex-sumotori that are really still in shape enough to do the exercises and hitting and all that stuff. So it's more legit now.
Yeah.
And then we purposely have smaller guys to show people that sumo doesn't have in weight class in professional sumo. And why there's not weight classes, what advantages the smaller guy has.
Yeah.
So right now, that's my focus now, more likely. I just came back from another tour to Saudi Arabia in January. We did one in Vietnam.
Ready to go. I saw that you were traveling quite a bit over the winter.
We're ready to go to hit the East Coast, starting out in Miami and Washington, D.C. And then I think our last stop is New York. And then people really love it because the humbleness and the respect that we show on the ring. It's very Japanese. It's very Budo. Budo is something that's hard to teach.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be branded so they can be branded even more, like all the showing off and all that. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
That's not part of what sumo is. The dual respect of each other makes sumo respectful. Is the respect they have for each other. And then the line that I use a lot is sumo is the only sport that we kick each other in the ass and say, thank you for kicking my ass.
So you also keep pretty involved with the sumo world in Japan too, right? I mean,
Most likely
you
I'm still
help out.
involved. I go out, I do a lot of coaching. Like after this, I head out to go up. I've been going the past couple of weeks already, help Musashi Maru coach his boys. And everybody, all the guys that was running the association now, the Lijicho, the top is guys that I did sumo with,
Yeah.
Pretty much, especially with Musashi Maru, only one local boy from Hawaii, stayed in there, hanging in there. So I know his stressful life, he's not free, Try to help him, comfort him, and in any way I can. Because he has to live within rules and laws. I feel sorry because this pandemic thing, we just started going back to actually going to the stadium because we weren't allowed. That the hardest thing that people don't even know, during all this pandemic up to last tournament, they weren't even allowed to get out of the stadium.
Really?
Like even go down the road to 7-Eleven, they weren't allowed.
What?
For 3 years, bro.
I was about to ask you about the pandemic and the impact on the sport, but I didn't realize that. Wow.
3
That's
years.
crazy. That's tough. That's
really
tough.
is. And that's I used to call him up and just to check on him, and I wanted to say hi to my nephew. So we weren't allowed to even see them. So he'd drive by my office with his nephew just waving to me, and then we'd leave and stuff. But they weren't allowed, they're not allowed to do anything.
That's crazy.
Like the stress level that these kids have to go through, and then they have to go tournaments and stuff.
It didn't look like the tournaments would have been very easy to facilitate with all the pandemic restrictions and everything going on.
It was so sad. Like for me, I understand the life, so I could feel the strain, man. But they overcome, right? And that's what they're made of. And that's why I say this discipline thing. There's nowhere in the world you can find a group of people or some culture sport like sumo that does the thing they do, man. It's hardcore, man. And I feel sorry. These kids are like, 15, 20, they all want to go out and date and go out.
They can't.
Not 3 years, bro.
But they finally, though, they can kind of go about their lives a little bit more normally now.
Not as much, Now they're so afraid to be seen outside. They're afraid of like a little misbehave can get them in trouble. So I've been taking a few of them out and eat sushi and stuff, and you can tell they're still kind of scared just to go out because they're afraid of being seen and getting in trouble,
Yeah.
So that's how much responsibility these kids are actually taking within themselves, They don't want to hurt their stable boss and you listen to that, all you feel is, oh man, this dedication, man,
That's tough.
Dedication, respect, and knowing their position as a young Sumotori, even at that young age of being very responsible,
It's something that you don't really, like you said, don't really see that in Western sports for sure. They don't internalize that responsibility.
Even in Japan, you cannot find. When you sit down and explain to my Japanese friend, they just freak out, man. I thought, you guys laugh about it, but this kid's not even allowed. Imagine you have a son in high school. Imagine him being stuck in a house for 3 years, not even allowed to even talk to his friends, not even to see his own family. This kid wasn't seeing their families at all.
Jeez,
they weren't allowed.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's been tough, man. So I'm just happy. Like, I think this turn, it might be probably letting them be more freely go out and grab something to eat and stuff.
The one that's coming up in May, where is that one? Is that one in Tokyo?
Tokyo.
Or is that...
It's in Tokyo.
Okay. Is it Tokyo is January, May, and September?
September. And
then they travel during the other months, March.
Also in March, July in Nagoya, and Fukuoka is November.
Okay, cool. We're actually kind of getting towards the end here, and I know we kind of went a little long. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good.
Yeah, no, it was so much fun talking with you. But before we wrap up, you've kind of mentioned some of the things they have going on, but I want to give you a chance to let people know where they can find out about your upcoming events, or maybe where they can find you on social media, or anything else that you maybe want to promote. It's your opportunity to just kind of let people know.
Okay, well, you can find me on konishiki.net. Everything else is on there. You have my YouTube channel. You can, if you want to. My YouTube channel is not made to like how people make it a business. My YouTube channel was created over 10 years ago to show the work I do. Yeah. And if you look at it, very professionally made. See all the stuff I do with my sumo and my entertainment and stuff like that. And that's actually how a lot of corporates find me. Okay. They go to my YouTube channel, and then right now you can find me on all the social media, and it's me doing all my social media myself. So I don't have anybody doing it. Everything I post is me. The only thing, my Konishiki world is probably sometime my wife, sometime me, sometime my worker posts. But most of the social media stuff is actually me. The Twitter is 100% me. I have an Instagram. And, it's just my life. One of my friends said, bro, you have a lot of followers. Why don't you try to boost everything? Well, I don't really care. If you want to follow. I'm not trying to get a million followers. I'm not even interested in million likes. I want people to understand and just to see. And I did it so all my friends and my families can, I live far away. I just want everybody to know that I'm doing okay. And I'm actually doing something. I'm working,
Yeah.
It's the only reason why I got sites going on. And then, this tour, we're coming in June. If you're in the area, if you're listening to this and you're probably in Miami, Washington, D.C. or New York, we will be in Miami on the weekend of June 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then the following week on the 14, 15, 16, 17 week of June, we'll be in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And then the last week is 20, 21, 22, 24th weekend. That's in New York City.
Okay.
I hope to educate. My goal right now as a 60-year-old man is my time left in the earth is to educate people about sumo that helped me put me where I'm at today and educate people more depth into what the life is all about. It's something that we talked about over your podcast. Yeah. And I want people to understand it because the life itself is the hardest part of the sumo experience, any athlete can handle the training and stuff like that. It's not just the training, it's just the lifestyle.
Yeah.
The way you dress, the way you talk, the way you carry yourself in public is so important. Hopefully, whoever get a chance to listen to this show that you put on today is going to get a little more awareness of what sumo is all about. And maybe the next time they're in Japan, find a way to get to watch sumo. Or if you're walking around, there won't be an area where it's sumo town. You probably see a lot of sumoists walking around if it's season.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. I never travel. I'm always in June or August when I'm traveling to Japan. So I never have a chance to visit. But this year I'll be in July for a little bit. So I might actually be able to go. Wait, where's July? Nagoya. Not in Tokyo. Never mind. I'm going to be a little bit further north. So I don't know if I'll be able to make it down to Nagoya. But I would love to one day.
If it's in August, you could find a way to get to the tours. The tours are fun too.
Yeah.
The sumo Dengyo.
Is there a way to find out where those tours or how to?
Everything you need to know about the Sumo Association, go to Japan Sumo Association. They have a website and everything is done there. You actually can buy tickets from there. If you're living in Japan, all tickets are sold at convenience stores.
Okay.
Lawson's.
Yeah, Lopi or whatever it's called, right? The little ATMs.
Yeah. And if you're coming to Japan, particularly just to watch sumo, make sure you be ready and read the website because they tell you exactly when tickets go on sale. And these tickets don't last long, to be honest with you. Even now, it's open to public. Japan has opened up their borders for people to come in. It's even harder to get tickets.
I bet.
So just remind yourself, if you're coming to Japan for that reason to come watch sumo, you might be disappointed to find out you get here and there's no tickets. So make sure before you come, go to the website. It tells you exactly when tickets go on sale. So you have to be ready on the day. Everybody's sitting next to the computer ready to push that button.
Oh, I bet.
Be the first to grab tickets.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will definitely make sure I share some of those links all in the show notes. So that way when people listen and they're interested in looking into more information, they can find it pretty easily.
Yeah, so if you're listening in Japan, you go. I have some new merchandise that's coming out on my site. It's konishiki.base.shop. You only can get it in Japan, and it's very rare. It's very original. It's the only sumo brand that is out there that makes any sense.
It looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I saw you wearing it in your pictures and stuff. I also saw some of the stuff. Yeah.
The artist is the artist that did all the artwork for the Tokyo Olympics.
Oh, okay.
I had the hardest time satisfying him to do the art for my brand. A lot of these artists, they don't do stuff like that. So
yeah.
He hung up the phone on me a couple times. I kept on calling and thought, can I take you out to lunch? Let me take you out to lunch. No, it is what it is. And it's part of the culture too. I wanted to keep it within the culture. That's why my brand already kind of focuses on white because of Shiroboshi means winning in sumo.
Yeah.
The only reason I have black is because I celebrated my 40th anniversary. And then I have the red new arrows coming out for next year because of my 68th birthday.
Oh, okay.
And then we go back to my white.
Very clean. Very clean looking.
That's good. White is, The only reason why we guys hate it is because it gets dirty.
Yeah, I know.
But white looks good, and it
does.
represents what sumo is a lot. So that's what I'm focused on right now.
Awesome.
Hopefully, in 2 years, I can actually expand the brand to go e-commerce and sell it all over the world. Right now, I'm just trying to have enough art. Because every year I have to buy a certain amount of art from this artist, and it's not cheap. So
yeah, bet.
That's why I don't sell my stuff cheap, because I have to pay a lot to own those paintings, that those artwork that
they commission for you. Yeah.
It's
awesome.
So all my merchandise, I only make, it's all limited editions. It's the ones I'm doing, especially this, the 40th anniversary. I won't make it again.
Yeah,
because it's my 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
And the thing is, once the tournament starts, I have a booth at the Ryogoku right outside the stadium, and it sells like everybody buys.
Yeah, everyone comes up and buys, huh?
It's all cool.
All right, man. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you got some stuff going on, but I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. And I know everyone that listens was gonna learn a lot from this, and just learning about the lifestyle and what it's like to be a sumotori in Japan. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah. And that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Krewe Japan podcast. And a sincere thank you to Konishiki for taking the time out of his day to chat with me about the life of a professional sumotori. This conversation was such a candid look at the past and present of the sumo world, from the day-to-day grind to bi-monthly or every other monthly, however you say it, every 2 months having a tournament, to the life and career beyond sumo retirement. As he mentioned on the podcast, Konishiki is just wrapping up his sumo and sushi tour along the east coast of the US this weekend. But check out his Instagram for some great pictures and recap of the trip. The guys look like they're having a blast. One other thing Konishiki didn't mention during his episode, but something I did want to point out. If you have an interest in sumo and want an even more in-depth look into Konishiki's life, fundamental movements and throws involved in sumo training, and a lot of other details beyond what we discussed today, I highly recommend checking out Konishiki's Sumo Masterclass on Naro TV. I'll have it linked in the show notes, along with his websites and social media. And if you haven't already, definitely check out Sanctuary on Netflix. It's so good. Have you ever attended a live sumo event? Which sumo wrestler is your favorite? Share with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, or wherever else at Krewe of Japan Podcast. That's KREWEOFJAPAN You know how to spell podcast. On Instagram, that's Krewe of Japan Podcast. Facebook, just search Krewe of Japan Podcast. Twitter, Krewe of Japan only, no podcast. TikTok, Krewe of Japan Podcast. And YouTube, same thing. Pretty much they're all the same, except for Twitter. For some reason, Twitter likes to be different. Don't we know? While you're there, give us a follow, like, retweet, share, whatever floats your boat. Let us know how you're enjoying the podcast. Or perhaps you prefer to provide your feedback in a more private setting. Send us an email at kreweofjapanpodcast@gmail.com. I'll spell it one more time. KREWEOFJAPANPODCAST@gmail.com. Speaking of feedback, if you are enjoying what you're listening to today, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast streaming app. These ratings and reviews definitely help others who have interest in Japan and these types of topics find the podcast, so any and all support is greatly appreciated. And don't forget about that happy hour at Bayou Beer Garden on June 28th that we're doing with Global New Orleans. Hope to see you there. But that's it for today. Until next time.